go again. Incredible. Anything is possible. And the crowd absolutely love it. We're heading into the wall. Oh, he's got it. He's got it. This is why we love Formula One.
Well, it is just our third race of the 2025 F1 season, and it's been a busy week or so since the Chinese Grand Prix. The paddock buzzing with the news of one of the most brutal driver switches in history, as Liam Lawson moves back to Racing Bulls and Yuki Tsunoda is promoted to Red Bull at his home race. Welcome along to weekend warm-up at the Japanese Grand Prix. And what timing. Welcome to Liam Lawson down here at Racing Bulls, joining us in the pit lane. He's just here to our right-hand side, heading back into the garage here. Alongside me, we welcome Chris Medland for his debut here on F1 TV, broadcaster and journalist. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me on a nice quiet week. It's good to be here.
No such thing in Formula One, my friend. James Hinchcliffe is well and truly back with us as well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, and like Chris was saying, what a weekend to come back. Always wanted to come to Suzuka. Wasn't expecting to come with quite such an exciting weekend ahead.
2 weeks then since China. This is the start of the triple header. That doesn't even begin to cover what has been going on in the last 10 days or so. As I mentioned at the top of the show, Liam Lawson is back here at Racing Bulls. He has been switched out of the top team Red Bull in place of Yuki Tsunoda, who steps up to one of the toughest seats in Formula One at his home race. First up, let's hear from Liam Lawson.
I had no idea in China. It was something that was decided, I guess, the Monday or Tuesday afterwards. I found out after China, basically. So, yeah, it was, I think for all of us, probably more unexpected. But it was after the weekend. The main thing is being in a car, I have the opportunity to obviously prove why I belong here, and that's what I'll try and do, and that's what I do every single time I get in the car. And that's what I'll be doing this weekend. So I think things change very, very quickly in terms of, where my future is. I don't know. And for me, the only way I can control that is by driving fast. It's motorsport. And as I said, the decision was not mine, but I'll make the most of this one.
Christian Horner said that, used the term the duty of care towards you in making this change. Do you feel it's in your best interests to have been moved so soon, or do you think it's more damaging to you and your confidence to have to go through this after just 2 races?
I think confidence-wise, it doesn't change a lot. We all have enough self-belief to be here, to make it to Formula One and to be in the sport. If you don't have that self-belief, I think it makes it very, very difficult. So I think we all have that naturally. It doesn't really change how I feel about myself. I think what it's doing for me, obviously for me, the best opportunity I had was felt like with Red Bull Racing, and that's where we're all working towards. That's what I was working towards since joining the junior program as a 16-year-old. So obviously for me, I'm going to feel like I would have liked to make that opportunity work, and that's in my best interest. But obviously, Christian and the team will have their opinions on what's best, and that's up to them to decide.
Oh, what a driver switch it has been for Liam Lawson, who's back now with Racing Bulls. What a welcome it was for him into the paddock, though. Laurent Mekies, team principal of VCARB, alongside me. And Laurent, it has been a busy 10 days or so. The welcome you gave Liam earlier on today, and his reaction to that was wonderful to see on what I'm sure has been an incredibly difficult time for the driver. How is he doing mentally? How nice was it for you guys to have that moment?
No, he's good. He's good. He is in good spirit. I'm sure it was difficult to digest, but as soon as it was announced, the next day he was in Faenza doing the seat fit. The day after that, he was at the simulator, and soon enough we were in Tokyo yesterday and getting on with things. So look, it's a massively exciting challenge for him. You know, don't get me wrong. I'm sure it was again difficult to digest, but he has a chance to prove a point, to rebuild himself, and we are here to try to provide him the best environment to do so.
And what insight do you have as to why this switch has been made after just 2 races? And 2 races in which he was racing at tracks he didn't know, one in the rain and one on a sprint weekend.
Well, you know, I think the first thing is we have to be happy for Yuki, you know, in our position. So, you know, we have been saying for more than a year now that Yuki was doing an amazing job, that he was making steps after steps, and he has done something even more spectacular during the winter and the first 2 races. So, of course, I'm sure the combination of that and of the difficulties that Liam was having was probably, you know, those the 2 main drivers for the dynamics. So, you know, our job here, you know, don't get me wrong, our first KPI is the competitiveness of the team. But the second one is to make sure that we grow our drivers enough so that they can be an option for the wider Red Bull family. And you know, we feel that that was the case for both Liam and Yuki. And it's great that Yuki gets a chance there now. And we'll try to show that Liam's talent has not disappeared.
Laurent, we were chatting just as Liam came in earlier today when you did that lovely kind of message on the pit board for him, and the team seemed really excited to have him coming back. Like, what's the atmosphere been like in that sense? Like, has he been welcomed back, or is it a bit of a shock, even from a team perspective, to have a change so soon?
We are not expecting to change after 2 races. I will be lying. But are we very excited about it? Yes. 1, because we are super happy for Yuki. And 2, because of course we know Liam has talent, and you know, we feel for him, and we really feel that he can express himself well in that car, and we will try to help him proving a point.
Laurent, we've had a lot of talk about Yuki going out, Liam coming in, but let's not forget, on the other side of the garage, you have Isaac Hadjar, a rookie. He's only got 2 Grand Prix under his belt. How's he feeling with the swap and now coming into this weekend with Liam as his teammate?
Yeah, it's a very good point. We had this joke with him actually earlier. We said, you know, you are going to have a very quiet weekend. Nobody will barely notice that you are here, so, you know, don't worry about it. So, you know, I think his best answer is at the racetrack. You know, it's easy to forget that Isaac actually, you know, put the car in P7 a couple of weeks ago in China on a track where he had never driven. So he's building up. He's building up in quite a spectacular way so far. So, you know, it's probably also why you see us quite a bit about it, because we feel we have, you know, a guy that has done two races, another one that has done 13 races, I guess. So still with both of them a huge amount of potential, and we are excited about the prospect to try to extract that from them.
Will you look to Liam, though, to lead this team as the more experienced of the 2, or is it kind of between the 2 of them now? Because obviously Yuki was so much more experienced than both. He kind of, in a sense, was the de facto guy that you'd lean on a bit more.
I think you're right. Yes, Yuki was certainly in that season start, was certainly leading us also in terms of car setup, on car development. He was having a very strong input. You know, yes, on one hand, Liam has done more races. On the other hand, you will have to discover this car. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic. So probably a bit more work as a team around them to make sure we go and pick the right directions for the future. And it's going to be so lap time sensitive, you know, given the tightness of the midfield, that we probably have to have a bit longer meetings than otherwise.
Laura, we have so many more questions for you because it is just such breaking news coming into this weekend, but we've got to let you go and prepare for the weekend yourself. So thank you. The excitement to have Liam back in the team is tangible. That's wonderful to see. Thank you for that. And best of luck, of course, to Yuki Tsunoda as well. Let's hear from him now.
You guys, thank you.
Well, first of all, I didn't feel yet exact trickiness what the driver's saying, and I have a bit of an idea from the simulator, but it's always a bit different from simulator to real car. So I'll see after P1 if I either, you know, have to change setup, but I don't think I have to change my driving style, because in the end, so far it works well, I guess, you know, with V-Carb. Otherwise, probably I wouldn't be here wearing this logo. So I just do whatever I was doing previously, and I go step by step to build the pace and everything. But let's see. Maybe I don't have to do that. Maybe car is straight away good. And in last year's, I think Red Bull had a pretty good performance this year, last season. both cars. So I'm quite looking forward to it. Yeah, feeling confidence. I mean, I'm not saying this confidence that I can perform straight away like Max, but I have confidence that I can do something different, hopefully, compared to other drivers that will be in their cars. For now, I can say only thing. If I don't have confidence, I'm not wearing this. I already stay in Racing Bulls, and Racing Bulls has such a good car already, and I understand their car how are able to extract performance every race so far. So, it's such a limited time to adapt, and it's another different beast as well. So, but I'll do my best, and if I can go through Q3 and score points, I'm happy.
Well, fantastic to hear from Yuki. And I spoke to him earlier in a longer form interview as well, which you'll hear on our pre-race show on Sunday, about the excitement of driving here on home soil in that top Red Bull seat that he has wanted for so long. He was speaking to you earlier saying Marco hasn't called him, though.
Yes.
But he found out via Christian, didn't he?
Yes, so Christian Horner's the one who did speak to, gave Yuki the call to let him know, and from Yuki's team, they actually thought it was a nice touch, the team principal saying it's a really important call to say you're racing for Red Bull now. But he said, yeah, interestingly, Helmut Marko used to call me all the time. I'd get plenty of calls from him when I've done well, or more often than not when I've done badly. And yet it's been a few days and I haven't heard from him. So he said he was looking forward to having that call. Then he walked out of the press conference, checked his phone, and saw Helmut Marko had tried to call him just before he went into the press conference. So a badly timed answer, I think, that one.
And when I spoke to him earlier, he was saying that Pierre Gasly has been in touch to tell him what he would do differently if he had another shot at Red Bull. A lovely touch. He wouldn't give any more info than that. I did press, but he said you'd have to ask Pierre that. But Checo also, Sergio Perez, has been passing on lots of advice, and Yuki earlier saying he's somewhat of a father figure in the support that he has offered. So everyone is behind Yuki Tsunoda in this position. But James, how tough is this? How much pressure is he under to perform? Liam Lawson was given 2 races. Yuki has way more experience. Has he got to hit the ground running? Will he be given a bit of grace?
There's so many answers to those questions, because if you look in, there's an interview that Helmut Marko did a little while ago earlier this week where he said that Tsunoda's in for the rest of the season. So that gives Yuki a little bit of confidence, a little bit of breathing room. And the other side of it is you have to look at this. If he goes out and he's half a second off Max, well, guess what? So is everybody else. So that's not actually a bad performance. If he's anywhere closer than that, if he's qualifying inside the top 10 in that car, then it's a remarkable performance based on what we've seen for the second driver in that car lately. So yes, of course there's pressure on Yuki, but drivers put so much pressure on themselves. It's his home race. He would have been putting extra pressure on himself here anyway. Even in the Red Bull system, as pressure-packed as that system is, a driver puts, this internal pressure that really is the breaking thing for a driver in that situation. So I don't know. There's so many questions to be answered here.
But just on that point about Helmut Marko saying it, I've been told that is true, that there's a guarantee that Yuki does for the rest of the season. Part of the talks maybe that included Honda, coming to Honda's home race, that's been discussed, and that, barring any unforeseen circumstances, he will be in for the rest of the season, which will take the pressure off a little bit. It does give him that bit of breathing space to at least know that he can work on things. Something Carlos Sainz was saying at Williams, he knows he has time and he can work through things to get up to speed in that car. Liam Lawson didn't get that. Yuki, knowing he has that, should be very helpful for him. But, as James says, coming here, he's not going to want to take time. He's going to want to hit the ground running very quickly.
Well, he already said he wanted a podium, which may be a little bit of a high expectation to set for day one.
I think they've had to lower them a bit. Say to him at the end of today, you know what? The whole thing of that if you're in front of Max and then you don't have to let him by, let's maybe just be realistic about how this might go. Let's get in the car first and see how it goes.
Yeah, he said to me, obviously, I'd love a podium, but look, top 10 and Q3 points here above a P10 where he scored before would be amazing. I've just got to ask the question before we move on to Max and indeed this relationship with Honda as well. I wanted to ask Laurent, why has this decision been made now, and why was it not made at the end of last season, which would have given Yuki Tsunoda a winter with the team to bed in? It would have given him pre-season testing. So what's changed between 2 races that has suddenly made Yuki the answer to the RB development, to the Red Bull development, and made him the driver that apparently he wasn't in December? This is the burning question, right?
So this is where I'm sceptical with the answers we're getting from Red Bull so far, which they're saying, oh, he's much fitter now, he's changed his management, he's stepped up a level and performed really well in these first 2 races. It was only the strategy that let him down. I remember writing, and I'm being that annoying guy who's saying, well, I said this. But at December, when they were dropping Checo, I said, they're making the right call at this point for both sides. I think, Checo, as a very experienced driver, but one who had been in that system for a while, number of years, struggling so much, they needed a fresh start. But like I said, putting Liam in with so little experience doesn't make sense. Yuki's done 4 years. You can afford Yuki to go in, and if he does fail, well, you found out everything you need to know. There's no last step waiting for him, whereas Liam needed time to develop. So it really surprised me then. And it surprised me even more now that they're trying to say, oh, it's all changed over those first 2 race weekends. 2 that were, one wet, one was a sprint. So little you can learn from that. I think it was extremely harsh. But maybe a hint of panic stations, because you said we're going to talk about Max soon. There's something Helmut Marko said about performance clauses and Max Verstappen's future, and that maybe there's a potential there that the second car needs to be backing him up more to almost help his own results, and therefore not make those clauses come into play at all.
James, I want to ask you about Max and how much he is potentially papering over the cracks that is Red Bull, that is the management here, that is RB21, that he is so fantastic a driver, that he is outperforming where the cars should be at, and therefore we are not seeing the true extent of perhaps what's going on behind the scenes.
It's the double-edged sword of Max Verstappen being your driver, isn't it? I mean, he's your greatest asset, but also potentially we're now finding out your biggest detriment. He is just so talented and so able to get so much more out of that car than anybody else that he's maybe glossed over the true performance of that machine, and I think Red Bull's starting to notice that. And that's where this starts to make a little bit of sense. With a dozen races under his belt, Liam doesn't have the experience developing a car that Yuki does. Helmut Marko in that same interview said, our priority is the driver's championship. Very interesting comment. So we need to make a car that can be better for Max, get him further up there as well. Yuki's got more experience developing. I kind of see the logic there. Do I agree that it was harsh in the timing? Yes, but yeah, Max ultimately is the best thing for Red Bull and almost maybe the worst thing for Red Bull as well.
Well, Max also agrees that it was harsh. He wouldn't publicly say it, would he? He wouldn't use the exact words every time you pushed him. He wouldn't
give me anything, no. I asked him directly his opinion on the switch and the management as well of this second seat, and he said, I have given the team my exact thoughts, and paraphrasing, I'm not giving them to you, and I'm not giving them to the media.
But then what he did admit, I'd say, is that his Instagram account liked a post by Geert van der Garde, very defensive of Liam and saying that it was a really, he felt it was a panicked move from Red Bull. And Max said, yeah, I liked that. And he said it wasn't an accident. Sometimes it happens, you like things by accident. He said that wasn't accidental, I agreed with the text. So that gave you enough that, okay, he's not particularly happy with this, but it's because, I think, Max feels he's maybe not getting the full credit for the job he's doing in that car. That people are talking about the second driver's underperforming, or is Max Verstappen overperforming, isn't the question that gets asked enough.
Well, F1 fantasy, just to move it back to the really important stuff, you will have to transfer Yuki Tsunoda and Liam Lawson out. They are now inactive drivers in their former team colours, so do make sure you're on top of that one so you don't get a penalty for inactive drivers. Okay, let's head then to our next interview, and this is Oscar Piastri with Mike Seymour.
Oscar, great to see you, fresh from victory, arriving here at Suzuka. How are you feeling heading into this one?
Yeah, looking forward to the weekend ahead. It's obviously been a nice couple of weeks to reflect on, so yeah, excited to go again and see what kind of performance we've got around Suzuka. But it's always a track I've enjoyed coming to, or as a country I've enjoyed coming to, so it's nice to be back.
Some pretty stellar comments from your team boss, Andrea Stella, as well after the last weekend. How much do you feel you've progressed in the last 12 months or so, and you know, those key areas?
I would say a lot. I think, yeah, China was a circuit that was a pretty tough round in 2024, and to have it be, you know, probably my best weekend in F1 in 2025 is, yeah, a pretty satisfying. That was the most, the biggest emotion I felt out of China was just satisfaction from the job that we did. So, yeah, it's been a pretty tough pre-season in terms of looking at what we can do to improve, and I've been happy with the start of the year so far. Perfect. Thanks, Oscar.
I just didn't go and tell you did.
Well, it's an enormous weekend, isn't it, for Max Verstappen, for Liam Lawson, for Yuki Tsunoda, not forgetting Isaac Hadjar, who's going to have a very quiet weekend. There's not much the attention's on him. But, of course, McLaren are also looking to back up what has been a win apiece so far this season. One for Lando Norris in Australia, one for Oscar Piastri last time out in China, alongside his first ever pole position as well. James, coming to you on this one. 2 drivers into one does not go. How spicy is this going to get on track?
I think it's going to be great. I mean,
Look at you.
I'm so
Gleeful.
excited. You know, Lando took a huge step as a driver last year. Oscar's done the same thing, I think, over the winter. Even with the little mix-up in Australia, the little, you know, loss of track position there with that mistake, his performance in China was absolutely incredible. To rebound from that the way that he did, the disappointment of not finishing on the podium in the home race, all that stuff just shows that mentally he's exactly where he needs to be to go toe-to-toe with the guy that coming into the season, everybody pegged as a favorite for the champion. So I think Zach Brown's got a really interesting situation on his hands. The team's got a history of dealing with this sort of thing, but I think it's going to be great for the fans. It's going to be great for us.
Yeah, it really is. Moving on to Mercedes then as well. We've got sort of 4 drivers within such a narrow smattering of points at the top of the table. George Russell, 2 podiums in 2 races. For Kimi Antonelli, though, another rookie being hugged, warmly supported by Mercedes. What have you made of him so far? What can he do here? His first time ever in Suzuka.
Yeah, it's funny because Antonelli just suddenly fills you with confidence the way he drives a car. Like I watched him in testing and thought, so on edge, is he going to crash it all the time? You're like, no, he's in full control, even though it looks like maybe he's not at times. He's been great to watch. Obviously, did a great job in Melbourne as well in the wet. He had car damage in China that they found after the race, so that was one of the reasons that he struggled a bit more there. I think he's going to relish this. He's been karting with Valentino Rossi in the gap, which looked very cool. He says had an awesome time, and I think he's just loving being a Formula One driver. And all of that being that positive means he's taking that confidence into each race weekend. And I think you see that when he goes out on track. He's in such a positive frame of mind that I think we're going to see him be pretty competitive here.
And we expected a lot from George Russell as well, didn't we? He had to step up as that leader. In a sense, he was the one replacing Lewis Hamilton, not Kimi Antonelli. He's done just that as well. But the former team leader of Mercedes, of course now at Ferrari, had a mixed weekend in China. I spoke to him in the pen a bit earlier. Lewis, an up and down weekend in China. Congrats on the sprint pole, sprint win, but then of course the disqualification came at the Grand Prix. How have you and the team dealt with that and discussed it, and hopefully it won't happen again? And then looking ahead to Suzuka here, what is possible for yourself and for Ferrari?
Yeah, well, I was at the factory with the team during the week. Really impressed with how the team digested and worked through the analysis and figuring out ways of working better moving forwards. Better processes and just hopefully make sure that doesn't happen again. And then coming here this weekend, I mean, every weekend I do with the team is a new experience, at a track that I've been to before, but obviously it's the first time in a Ferrari around this track, and I don't know what to expect in terms of how the car will feel necessarily, but I feel positive. Obviously, I've got 2 races behind me now and experienced the tires, and like for example the C2 tire that we had in the last race, I hadn't actually driven that before, so finally got a race with that under my belt, and yeah, I feel positive coming this weekend.
Great stuff, thank you, go well. Lewis Hamilton then with, I guess, a little bit to prove after last weekend. A double disqualification, guys, for the team, but for 2 separate reasons. Is that a cause for concern, James?
I don't think so.
It's not a good thing, obviously.
No, it's not a good thing, but it's... The underweight one, that happens. We've seen that a few times over the last few years. The skid wear, we've seen that a few times over the last few years. The coincidence of them being in the same weekend, I think, is that's the outlier. I don't think there's a reason to be concerned. I think there's a big reason to be disappointed. We've seen how close this constructors battle can come. You think, well, how many points did they lose in China?
18.
18. What would they lose the championship by last year?
14.
Less than that.
Yep.
So it's hopefully not something that comes back and bites them later in the year, but I don't think it's a cause for concern now.
And like you say, it wasn't just the Ferraris that got disqualified. Pierre Gasly for being underweight as well. So it was something that happened that weekend, at least on one side of the garage.
So on to Alpine then, the only team not to have scored. I didn't think we'd be saying that 3 races in. You know, Sauber has leapt up, Haas have leapt up, Williams have been brilliant. What's going on at Alpine?
I just think it's circumstance, because we talk about disqualifications. If Pierre Gasly's car hadn't been underweight, and there's ifs, buts and maybes, but he would have been promoted to 9th, and he'd have 2 points on the board, and he said no one would be talking about this. And there's been times that car's looked very competitive, or competitive enough in the midfield, and it's just that we've got so many teams capable of scoring points. Haas, I think, is a great example. Where they went from in Melbourne to then in China was remarkable, and if you take that out of it, again, Gasly would have been in the points if the 2 Haases weren't ahead. Like, everyone is capable if they get it right on a given weekend, and I think Alpine are in that mix next two. I reckon in a couple of races' time, we'll be talking about everyone having scored points.
I'll tell you what, if liveries equal speed, Haas are the winners this weekend. That is a thing of beauty.
It is
she
gorgeous.
is beautiful.
You know what I'm disappointed about, though? No matching merch. I would have been first in
I'd have
line.
bought that.
I would have been first in line for merch on that one.
I say buy it, I'd have gone begging to the team hospitality.
Is there space for any merch other than Yuki Tsunoda merch this weekend, though?
No.
Especially with a special livery on the Red Bull as well, the Honda tribute livery. So, I mean,
Exactly.
I think there's going to be a lot of money spent in the fan zones.
There might be a discount on some Yuki Tsunoda V-Car merch, though.
Maybe.
There's probably more of that than they
See if we can get our hands on
stacked
some.
up. Yeah, there might be some discounts.
Moving on to Aston Martin. Fernando Alonso yet to finish a race this season. Really tough start for him. Where does he go from here? I mean, you know, this is Suzuka. He knows this place incredibly well.
Yeah, he's been very strong here in the past. He had a really good result here last year, actually. Beat both of the Mercedes drivers here, Fernando, so that's been good. Flip side is, Lance Stroll has been pretty strong himself and picking up points or in the mix for points and doing a very solid job there. Again, I think it's one we kind of put down the circumstance. Strange to see Alonso crash in Melbourne, but just the way the weekend then panned out in China with a sprint weekend as well. He didn't get a chance to show anything in that race. So, again, I think at this early in the season, it's just a bit like, well, you focus in on someone who hasn't quite nailed a result yet, but we only have a sample size of 2 races.
I know, we are getting very ahead of ourselves.
Well, a little bit, yeah.
And 2 races
Sorry.
that were
No, it's all of
absolutely
us.
bonkers as well.
It's easy to do.
Well, I mean, look what Red Bull have done. Anyway, Carlos Sainz with Williams. Let's hear him from him now.
Carlos, great to see you. First couple of race weekends with your new team, Williams, in the bank. How do you reflect on those?
Yeah, I think it's been quite a challenge for sure. Like always, really, when you change teams, you always go through a learning process and through a adaptation process that it takes time and effort and takes a lot of energy. But I feel like we're in the right track, we're on the right way. I was very quick in Australia, unfortunately, with the problem in the race. Not so quick in China, but we hope to understand why, and it was good to go through that experience, and now hopefully we can put things together and perform better this weekend.
Yeah, is it just a case of steadily working through things weekend by weekend, working out exactly how the team and the car operates?
Yeah, you need to give yourself time, you know, when you change teams, when you have so many things that you're used to and things are so different. You need to give yourself the time to experience those things and to go through different tracks, different experiences and learn from them. And that's exactly what I'm going through right now. And yeah, I'm going to give myself the time in these next few races to get up to speed. But I think we are on the right track.
Thanks, Carlos.
Thank you.
Carlos Sainz then given the time to get used to that Williams. Yuki Tsunoda there signing autographs for adoring fans here on home soil and in his brand new shiny Red Bull overalls as well. I spoke to Alex Albon just before coming on this show, and he was saying that he was in Thailand, of course, last week. He hasn't quite had a chance to have a chat with Liam or Yuki, but did want to say that he's really pleased to see Yuki so up for the challenge, but equally said about Liam, this is a huge opportunity for him to prove everyone wrong. And he was giving some really wonderful words of encouragement. And you know, James, that he knows exactly what this whole scenario is like, both ends of it, both sides.
Yeah, I think the Albons and Gasly's of the world are maybe a little bit more sympathetic to the situation for both drivers, because it is a tough situation for both. But it's great. I love seeing the kind of fraternity of the F1 drivers. It's great to hear that, you know, that Checo reached out to Yuki and that Alex has those kind of comments for both Liam and Yuki. Tough competitors on track, but we're all human beings at the end of the day, and it's great to kind of see that they're supporting each other. It shows that they're all popular as well. They're well liked. There's no enemies amongst at least those group. There's a few in the paddock, but not those guys in particular. So I think it's really nice that everyone's kind of stepping up.
Oscar said something similar as well in his print media session, that with Liam as in particular, he's like, I've raced him my whole career. He's a very competitive driver. We've not seen the real Liam Lawson in that Red Bull. You know, he's only had 2 races to show it, but same time, I hope Yuki goes well, because he's a very popular driver as well, and he's clearly in such a good mood this weekend. I mean, we talked about pressure earlier, but as we've just seen, he is lapping it up, because this is something he's been waiting for what, 4, 5 years? And in the final year of the partnership with Honda as well, he's going to make the most of it, I think.
It's just a complete dream weekend for him, isn't it? And you just hope that it ends well for him as well. Moving on to Sauber, we welcome Jonathan Wheatley officially into the paddock. as team principal. How do you think he'll go? How do you think he's looking on at the Red Bull situation as well?
I bet there's part of him being like, I'm glad I'm out of that right now. At least he's not facing those sorts of questions. It's a fresh start, but he has literally just started. He's just been in at the factory, hardly spent any time there. So it's one of the reasons that the team say they haven't actually done too much with him yet, is because he's still got to learn names and where he's going. And it's just been his start point this week. So he'll really, I think, learn a lot. He'll be in a very observational kind of role this week. Maybe not quite as hands-on as you're going to see him moving forward. But there's a lot to learn. These are big teams, Formula One teams. There's a lot of people. There's a lot of ways that they work differently to each other as well. So he'll want to understand what Sauber do compared to what Red Bull used to do. Some of it might be better in his view, but a lot of it he might say, hey, we can do this differently. This is how it used to be done at a World Championship winning team.
He can transfer a fair bit of knowledge across. Quickly on Sauber, Nico Hülkenberg obviously scoring points for the team that struggled so much last season. I know some of the races so far have been, as we say, circumstantial in terms of results, but is there an upturn for Sauber's form?
I think it's tough to know that for sure. Again, circumstantial, 2 races, all the themes already that we've had so far this show, but that's just classic Nico. Give him an opportunity, a reasonable car, he will execute. He's a safe pair of hands. He's always good on a Sunday. So I think it's just, he's repaying the team for the faith they've shown in getting him there. The fact that we were talking about, are they going to go scoreless last year with only a couple races left? Here we are, 2 races in. They got points on the board from the get-go. I think it's just a great result from him.
Yeah, it really is. Well, we're going to take a look now at how this schedule looks for the Japanese Grand Prix. Friday, then, is your first day of track action here at Suzuka. We're building up to FP1 at 11:15, FP2 at 2:45. Then on to Saturday, the 3rd hour of running. They'll be grateful for that after a sprint weekend in China. 11:15 for that one. Pre-qualifying show at 2:30. The hour of qualifying coming at 3 p.m. and the post-qualifying show just afterwards. And then on to race day, 1 p.m. for your pre-race show, 2 p.m. for the Japanese Grand Prix start, and your post-race show, as ever, immediately after. Mark your cards. You don't want to miss a minute of the action here at the Japanese Grand Prix, with so many incredible storylines interwoven into this 3rd round of the Formula One season. Okay, I would like predictions, please. Chris, as it's your first time here on F1 TV, you can go first.
Oh, yeah, just throw me to the walls. Yeah, so harsh. Well, then I'll take the obvious ones, because I'm going to say it's going to be a fight between the 2 McLaren drivers, but one I'm really excited to see, because, yeah, 1 win apiece. I can't call who's going to win it out of the 2 of them. But I'm going to have to, aren't I, because it's prediction. So I'm going to go with Oscar to go back-to-back victories. But I'm going to have Max on the podium as well, because he is mighty around here anyway, and this is a real driver's track. And we're talking about his teammate a lot, but his back's against the wall, and he's going to prove some people what a great job he's doing too, I think.
You're not going to love this. It's fairly similar to what Chris said. I was going to say a McLaren 1-2. I'll just go Lando because you won Oscar. Because, again, I think it's too close to call at this point. And I was going to say Max because the Red Bull is still strong in high-speed corners. There's a lot of those here. And Max is Max. Like you said, he's so good around this place. Driver's track. He can get that last 10th or 2 out of a car. So I think that's the top 3.
I'm going to agree with you both. First time for everything, guys.
Wow.
Boring.
Yeah, I think we're going to see 2 McLarens and Max Verstappen on the podium here. I'll say an Oscar Piastri back-to-back victory. Let's see. James, Chris, thank you both very much indeed. Brilliant to warm this weekend up with you. Thanks as well to Mike Seymour in the pen doing the questions. And thanks to you for watching. We will see you tomorrow here at the Japanese Grand Prix. Bye for now.
We're back. I can't do this, seriously. I would like to do the using ball.
This is Formula One.
Are you ready? Lights out.